Another important mathematical concept in the health sciences are decimals, or decimal fractions. So let's take a look at an example of a decimal. 321.0254. So the decimal point separates the whole numbers from the fractions. We have to recognize that each one of these is a certain place value. To the right of the decimal point is the tenths place. 2 to the right is hundredths. 3 to the right is thousandths. And 4 to the right is 10,000ths. So if we're to round, we could round to the nearest whole number. Looking at the number, 321 is the whole number. After the decimal point, it becomes 0.0, so we're going to round down and leave it at 321. To round to the nearest tenth, we would take a look at 321.02. Here's tenth. The number after tenths is 2, too small, so again we're going to round that down, which is going to leave us to 321.0. If we're going to round to the nearest hundredth, we'll have to look at thousandths, 321.025. So here's hundredths. The next after that is thousandth, and that's going to require me to kick that up. If the number is 5 or more, you increase. If it's 4 or less, you leave it alone. So in this case, rounding, that would become 321.03. And let's do one more. Let's take a look at thousandth. Let's round this to the nearest thousandth. And in that situation, what do we have? You would write down 321.0254. 5 is thousandths, 4 comes next, that's too small, so we're not going to increase the 5, we'll leave it alone as 321.025. Now, you want to go ahead and be able to add and subtract decimal numbers, decimal fractions. So let's take a look at our number 321.0254, and let's add 17.96. If we're going to add decimal numbers, we need to make sure that we pay attention to place value. And the way we do that is we line up the decimals. 321.0254 is my first number. My second number is 17.96. We're going to line up the decimals there. 17.96. Now you ask yourself, what do you do with those extra 2 places? And you can take care of that by making them both zeros. So filling in the placeholders as zeros, and then adding the usual way: 4, 5, 8, 9, 8, 3. 3 becomes our answer there. So when you're adding or subtracting decimal points, you want to make sure that the place values are accounted for. Line up your decimal points will make that certainly easier. Subtraction is more challenging. If I have 22.6 minus 13.478, we're going to write 22.6 and 13 point, lining them up, 478. And with decimals or decimal fractions, that means 6 tenths. There are 0 hundredths and there are 0 thousandths, at which point we can go ahead and do subtraction the usual way. So the standard method taught in this country is to borrow. We can't borrow from a 0, so we think of this as 60. We decrease 60 by 1, and that becomes 59, and then we add 1 to that. So if you think about it, that's 500, 90, and 10. That is equivalent to 600, so we know we haven't changed the overall value. Now we subtract. 10 subtract 8 is 2, 9 subtract 7 is 2, 5 subtract 4 is 1. Officially, I guess you would borrow here as well. You would take this 2, make it into 1. You notice that corresponds to 10 and 12, which would be equivalent to 22. 12 minus 3 is 9, and the result that we have is 9.122. Even more challenging is if we have a whole number like 34 minus 7.835. So if that's the case, we're going to put in the decimal point and rewrite 34 as 34 decimal point. Underneath that, lining up the decimals, 7.835, which of course means 7 and 8 tenths, 3 hundredths, 5 thousandths. To do this, we're going to go ahead and put zeros in that slot. And indeed, this kind of subtraction can get challenging. Again, we have a lot of borrowing that we have to do, or regrouping. We want to make that 0 into a 10. So if I ignore the 3, 4000 is 4,000. So what I can do is I can remove 1 from there and make that 399. With the 1 here, 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 3 is 6. 9 minus 8 is 1. And then we have 33 minus 7. You can probably do that in your head. 33 minus 7 is 26. So we have 26.165. If you have multiple questions to add, let's say, for example, we have 3.41 plus 5.2 plus 6 plus 7.348. The strategy is still the same. You list them and you line up the decimal points so that all of the place values are in the same column. 3.41, 5.2, 6 is just 6.0, and 7.348, 7.348. To do this, it's helpful to go ahead and add zeros. So 3.41 is 3 4/10, 100th, 0 thousandths. Certainly doesn't change the value. 5 and 2/10, 0 hundredths, 0 thousandths. Certainly does not change the value. And then decimal points line up. 0008. 4 and 1 is 5. 4, 2, 3, 6 and 3 is 9. 8 and 6 is 14, and 7 is 21. So the result from that is 21.958. Something to keep in mind, a decimal point is really just a fraction. 0.23, what does that mean? 2/10, 3 hundredths, or 23 hundredths? What does 0.007 mean? 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 7 thousandths, which we can write as 7 thousandths. What does 3.2 mean? That means 3 and 2 tenths, which would be the same thing as 3 and 1/5, which of course you could convert to a top-heavy fraction if you would like. 5 times 3 is 15, and 1 is 16, and that is 16/5. So remember, a decimal is just another type of fraction, a type of fraction where the denominators are all powers of 10. So it could be something over 1, something over 10, something over 100, something over 1,000, etc.